The training hall smelled faintly of ozone and disinfectant, like most things aboard the Zarthan Fleet Academy, where every surface gleamed in sterile precision. Rows of recruits stood at attention, each one a different species from the Alliance. Tall, chitin-armored Zrek, slithering Olthi with translucent flesh, and even the floating crystalline entities from the ice moons of Vorex. And then, standing awkwardly near the back, was a single human. Cadet Mara Quinn. She was smaller than most, lacking claws, scales, or bioluminescent armor plates. Just soft skin, a standard-issue uniform, and a bored expression that her instructors found both unnerving and insolent. The Zarthan instructor, a towering mantis-like veteran named Commander Tzirok, clicked his mandibles as he paced before the recruits. His voice rasped through the translator. "Today," he announced, "we will evaluate your close combat capabilities. As future officers of the fleet, you must demonstrate the ability to disable, not destroy. Efficiency, restraint, and precision." He turned to the group, his multifaceted eyes narrowing. "Pair off by species for demonstration." Recruits began forming groups, Zrek with Zrek, Olthi with Olthi, each eager to prove themselves. But when the instructor reached the human, his antennae twitched in mild irritation. "Cadet Quinn," he said, "your species is unrepresented. You will demonstrate alone." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Against who, sir?" "Against me," Tzirok replied. A low murmur rippled through the hall. The recruits exchanged looks, some amused, others pitying. Humans were a curiosity in the galaxy, mostly relegated to diplomacy and logistics. Physically, they were considered primitive, fragile compared to the multi-limbed predators or energy beings that dominated the fleet. Mara only sighed. "With respect, sir, I don't think that's optional," Tzirok snapped. His forelimbs clicked together, the sound like knives sharpening. "Fetch a training weapon." She looked around. All the racks were empty. The other recruits already held their practice blades or padded batons. On the far side of the hall, a maintenance droid was scrubbing the floor, its mop resting idly against the wall. Mara walked over, grabbed the mop, and returned to the center mat. The recruits chuckled. "Is that your weapon?" Tzirok asked, his mandibles clicking in amusement. Mara nodded. "For now. Proceed, cadet." The demonstration begins. Tzirok moved first, fast, deceptively so for his size. Forearms swept out, too fainting high, too low. The air hissed as chitin met motion. Mara ducked under the first strike, parried the second with the mop's handle, and twisted away. The audience gasped. The mop clattered against the instructor's limb, not breaking but bending just enough to absorb the force. She pivoted, swept his legs, and retreated a step. Tzirok hissed. "Again!" He came at her harder this time. She blocked, dodged, slid under his reach. Each movement was deliberate, calculated. The other recruits had expected her to panic, maybe even surrender. Instead, she moved with the ease of someone who'd done this before. After a minute, Tzirok's tone shifted from amusement to something colder. "You rely on improvisation," he said, circling. "Primitive instinct. It will not serve you in war." Mara smirked. "Sometimes instinct keeps you alive, sir." She lunged, not at him but at the mop itself. She snapped it across her knee, breaking it cleanly in two. The sound echoed through the hall like a gunshot. Now holding two short sticks, she grinned. "Better reach." "To the human factor." The recruits whispered in disbelief. The mop wasn't meant to break. Fleet maintenance gear was carbon reinforced. Tzirok lunged again, but this time Mara didn't dodge. She met his attack, one stick intercepting his upper arm, the other slamming into the joint of his lower limb. The alien staggered, shocked not by pain. His exoskeleton was dense, but by the precision. Mara stepped close, elbowing him squarely in the thorax, twisting the second stick up under his mandible. For a breathless moment, the towering instructor was off balance. Then she released, stepped back, and tossed both halves of the mop aside. The room was silent. Tizerok's antennae twitched in restrained fury. "Where did you learn that, human?" Mara shrugged. "Earth. You know, the planet you said was barely combat capable in your lectures." He stared, his faceted eyes reflecting her calm face. "You are dismissed," he said finally. She saluted, turned on her heel, and left. The whispers didn't stop for days. 3 ripples in the academy. That night, Mara found herself summoned to Fleet Command's observation deck. The stars shimmered beyond the glass walls, a vast tapestry of cold light. Waiting there was Captain Oren Val, a half-Centauri intelligence officer with cybernetic implants glittering along his skull. He didn't turn as she approached. "You embarrassed one of our top instructors," he said, voice measured. "Didn't mean to," she replied. He asked for a demo. Val turned, his single organic eye narrowing. "You're not standard issue, are you, Quinn?" "Guess not." He studied her a moment longer, then handed her a data slate. "We've been monitoring irregular combat patterns from your planet. Guerrilla efficiency, high adaptability, unpredictable aggression under pressure. Fleet metrics don't account for it." Mara smirked. "We call that being stubborn." Val ignored the quip. "We're forming a task division, project interface, to integrate human methods into fleet training. You'll lead the pilot phase." Her smile faded. "You're serious?" He nodded. "After today, Command wants results. We fought too long with predictable systems. The war against the Drath Collective isn't going well. We need something different." Mara looked out the window at the stars, cold and infinite. Difference what humans do best. For the war comes home. Within weeks, the academy had changed. Training simulations now included variable environments, shifting gravity, unstable atmospheres, psychological duress. Mara oversaw squads of mixed-species cadets, teaching them human combat techniques, improvised weapons, distraction tactics, and controlled chaos. Not everyone approved. Commander Tizerok watched from a distance, his mandibles tight with resentment. "You've turned the academy into a circus," he accused one day after a particularly messy drill where cadets used broken pipes as weapons. Mara shrugged. "Real fights are messy. Discipline wins wars. Not when your enemy writes the rulebook," she shot back. He said nothing, but his silence was venomous. 2 months later, the Drath Collective struck. They came without warning. Thousands of bioships breaching fleet space, organic vessels pulsing with crimson energy. Communications collapsed. Half the outer colonies fell in a week. The fleet scrambled. Mara's unit, small, experimental, and untested, was deployed to the mining moon Lior 9, where a Drath nest had begun burrowing into the surface. The main fleet was days away. All they had were 3 dropships, 50 recruits, and the will to survive. The battle on Lior 9, the moon was ash and dust, its atmosphere thin and metallic. The Drath swarmed like nightmares, spiked creatures with molten eyes, part machine, part flesh. Mara stood in the crater's shadow, helmet sealed, rifle slung. Around her, cadets moved nervously. "Remember what we trained for," she said over comms. "Stick close. Adapt. If you can't win the fight, change it." The first wave hit like a storm. Zrek cadets used their natural armor to shield the Olthi snipers. The crystalline Vorex generated sonic bursts to disorient attackers. And in the middle of it all, Mara moved like liquid fury, rolling through cover, firing controlled bursts, then switching to melee when the creatures closed in. At one point, a Drath lunged at her, its limbs bladed and burning. Her rifle jammed. She dropped it, grabbed a broken pipe from the ground, and smashed it across the creature's head. Pipe bent. The creature fell. "Improvisation," she muttered. The fight raged for hours. By the time the fleet reinforcements arrived, the Drath nest was silent. Mara's team was bloodied but standing. The moon was theirs. 6. The aftermath when the reports reached Fleet Command. Disbelief turned to astonishment. 50 recruits had held a Drath position against a force 20 times their size. Losses, minimal. Enemy casualties, total. Commander Tzirok requested a meeting. He found Mara in the recovery bay, sitting on a bunk, nursing a cracked rib. "Your methods," he said slowly, "defy every combat principle we teach." She smiled faintly. "That's the point." He hesitated. "The fleet is reconsidering its doctrines." "Good. Maybe next time we'll bring mops." He tilted his head. "Explain." She laughed softly. "When you're out of weapons, everything's a weapon." For the first time, Tzirok's mandibles curved in what might have been amusement. 7. The instructor's return. Months passed. The war dragged on, but the tide began to turn. Fleet units trained under the interface doctrine, human-inspired adaptability, started outperforming traditional divisions. Tzirok returned to teaching, but now his tone had changed. He no longer mocked the strange human customs. Instead, he studied them. He even added a new segment to the combat curriculum: improvised defense techniques. On the first day of the new term, he entered the hall carrying an old mop. The recruit stared. "You may find this object primitive," he said, clicking his mandibles. "But you would be wrong." He raised the mop, snapped it in two, and held the pieces aloft. "This," he said, "is the story of how one human taught the fleet to fight differently." In the back of the room, Mara, now Lieutenant Quinn, watched silently, pride flickering behind her calm eyes. 8. Legacy. Years later, when the war finally ended, Fleet archives recorded the Lior 9 campaign as a turning point. Historians debated tactics, logistics, and technology, but every soldier knew the truth. It wasn't superior weapons or strategy that had saved them. It was the mindset of a single species too stubborn to die quietly. Humans became instructors across the fleet. Their unpredictability became doctrine, their chaos an art. In the Academy Museum, under a glass case, hung 2 carbon-scored sticks labeled simply, "Mop Type 7, fractured during demonstration," used by Cadet M. Quinn during first human combat display. Visitors often asked why something so mundane was displayed among relics of great battleships and plasma cannons. The guides always smiled. Because, they'd say, that was the day the galaxy learned what it meant to be human. 9. Epilogue. Mara retired years later, taking a quiet post on a deep space research outpost orbiting a blue-green world. One evening, as she watched the stars shimmer beyond the viewport, a message pinged across her terminal.